Hello, Packers fans. Welcome into PackersNews.com. I'm Kassidy Hill here to kickstart week 1 of the 2023 season. Packers in Chicago to start their season and the Jordan Love era off against a divisional opponent here at Soldier Field in Chicago today, and a Justin Fields-led offense that definitely added some weapons this offseason. So going to be a very interesting game with both teams. Very little known about both teams, so a lot possibly going to get answered today. It is still week 1, so remember to take everything with a grain of salt that we do see today. But an exciting day for both fan bases, possibly for the NFC North, as we kind of figure out what the next chapter for both the Packers and the Bears could look like, and ergo their rivalry as well. If you've got any questions, feel free to put them in the comments. I'm going to try to get to a couple here as we go through. Before we do get to any questions, though, and videos from the week, I wanted to share inactives with you. So the Packers inactives today, for starters, wide receiver Christian Watson. We kind of knew he was going to be out. Matt LaFleur told us that on Friday. Running back Emmanuel Wilson. I think that one's slightly interesting. We'll come back to that one. Safety Anthony Johnson. Safety Zane Anderson. Linebacker Britton Cox. Tackle Caleb Jones. And offensive lineman Sean Ryan. As I said, the Watson one we sort of knew. Zane Anderson's a little interesting just because I would think they would want as many options in depth at safety as they can as they kind of figure out what their rotation is going to look like and who their even starters are going to be. I want to see who's lining up next to Darnell Savage. Snap one versus Chicago today. Britton Cox, kind of expected that one as he continues to kind of grow. And then same with Caleb Jones and Sean Ryan as well. We're going to just a sec, guys. Sorry about that. In fact, let's go ahead and kind of jump into the week if we can, and hear from Jordan Love, who's going to be throwing to mostly younger guys without Christian Watson, and what his jitters might look like and how much he has learned about the Bears defense through the offseason.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely always nerves going into any game, especially the first game of the season. So I'm sure there'll be those, and it's just getting out there and getting your feet wet and being able to relax and stay calm. But yeah, first start for me. So not first start, but first time being a starter. So yeah, I mean, you just got to know it's going to be unscouted looks. Probably some looks that are new for them this year that they've been practicing that we've never seen before. So you just got to be ready for whatever. We talk about it in the meetings, just fall back on your rules. Throw what you see, trust what you see, but it's definitely going to be some looks that you probably haven't seen.
So we heard there from Jordan Love on heading into it's his second start, but really the first game sort of his era, and also what he expects from this Bears defense, especially since there are so many new faces there. With that in mind, let's go ahead and jump into a couple of questions. Randy asked, is Doubs ready to play against the Bears? Doubs practiced on Thursday and Friday. Neither one of those were padded practices. And so, what is that hamstring going to do when he takes a hit? He has not really been on the field since previous to the third preseason game. And so, how is it going to hold up? We haven't really seen Doubs have a lot of hamstring issues, whereas Christian Watson, this is like his second or third. And so he should be okay, but it's just going to be a matter of, he also hasn't had a ton of just warm-up reps the past couple of weeks. However, he has a lot of history and chemistry with Jordan Love. If you're Jordan Love, you want Christian Watson out there, obviously. But if you're Jordan Love, it's almost more important in this first game to have Romeo Doubs, because that's his safety blanket, that's his check down, that's what he goes to all the time when he needs to just get the ball out. He can always count on Romeo Doubs. So that's almost more important for him to have him this week, as you want both of them on the field, of course. But if you can only have one, at least in this first game, I think you want Romeo Doubs And actually, Matt LaFleur and Romeo talked about how his role possibly would change this week with Christian Watson out. Let's hear from what both of those had to, both Matt LaFleur and Romeo Doubs had to say this week.
How did Romeo look for you today?
He looked really good.
You guys do on a Friday. Was he able to go 100%? I mean, is he full go at this point?
He looked really good.
Have you fully tested your hamstring this week?
That fair. I'll leave that up. Sorry, but again, I will definitely leave those questions for LaFleur when that time do come. My apologies.
Well, we still had a whole week to kind of prepare for this, so I wouldn't say that would alter the plan too drastically. I think anytime you're missing one of your better players, I mean that certainly throws a little curveball to it, but I mean that happens all the time. Shoot, the Chiefs had to deal with that, last night.
Romeo, I know you had some experience with this last year, but how does your role change if Christian's not out there, or since he's not going to be out there?
It's a bummer, but I think we got a pretty solid core. I'm confident in our core. It just comes down to just executing and just taking play by play and doing everything else.
Have you talked with Jordan about your role changing at all?
Yeah, I've been talking to him throughout this week, just as far as how things are going to go on my end, or kind of, just helping out the rookies, seeing whatever it is that they need to work on or whatnot. Just basic ball, just whatever type it is.
So heard there from both Matt LaFleur and Romeo Doubs on sort of how his role could change this week with Christian Watson out. But it's also going to rely a ton on the running game. Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon. A.J. Dillon was a huge factor in this game last year in December. And so how do they factor in, especially against this Bears defense? With that being said, let's hop back to the inactives for a minute. Emmanuel Wilson, inactive. Patrick Taylor, if you remember, was elevated from the practice squad as a practice squad to game day elevation on Saturday. So I think I wouldn't have been surprised that Wilson would be inactive. And I wouldn't necessarily be surprised if Patrick Taylor was elevated. Those two things in and of themselves are almost expected. What's surprising is that they came at the expense of each other, especially if you're wanting to get Emmanuel Wilson more game reps at NFL speed. I would think this would be a game where you feel comfortable putting him out there to sort of get that experience. So why make him inactive if you want a third running back? Why not let it be Emmanuel Wilson for this first week? A little interesting. So not sure what the thinking was in there. Something to ask Matt LaFleur afterwards. Tyler, I see your question about why you can't watch on YouTube. It should be streaming to YouTube as well on the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. I will check on that when we're done, and if it's not, we'll get that fixed for the next time. But apologies, you should be able to watch that on YouTube as well. Let's see. Let's jump to a couple of other questions here. Callum asks, do you think Van Ness will have a good game? I'm going to be honest, Callum. No, I don't think he will. And that's nothing necessarily against Van Ness. I just think that's a really tough position to transition to in the NFL. And to have your first test be against Justin Fields, who can hit that edge and find a lane quick, that's a tall, tall task to ask any rusher to do, but especially a rookie rusher who is considered really still sort of a player that has to progress a little bit more. I see a joke here in the comments. I think we're going to just go on to the next one. Brian asked, how do we keep Fields in the pocket? If we keep his running under track, we win. Go Pack up. Brian, that's always easier said than done because Justin Fields, I think he had 71 yards and 6 rushes in this December game last year. One of those was a 55-yard run. So you take that 55-yard run away, he ends up with, I'm trying to do some math, 16 yards. I think it was 3.2 yards per carry. but he's always going to break one of those off. And so how do you mitigate that damage? And Justin Fields had over 1,000 yards rushing last season. That's something he could easily do again. The biggest help with that will probably be Rashan Gary. Being able to shut down Justin Fields, you need Rashan Gary on the field. Rashan Gary, who tore his ACL in week 9 last year, is ready to play today. You notice he was not on the name of inactives. He's suited up. He's ready to play today. How much will he play is in question. Defensive coordinator Joe Barry said on Friday that Rashan Gary would be on a pitch count. And as to how many snaps that meant, you have to tune in today to find out. I can tell the Packers are running on the field right now because I'm hearing the boos from the Bears fans. I do apologize that we weren't able to be on the field today. I know it's a lot more fun in these pregame shows when we're on the field, but we should be able to be down there in the coming weeks here. Anyways, back to Rashan Gary. Having Rashan Gary on the field and being able to anchor one side with Preston Smith on the other can make a big difference in shutting down Justin Fields. So how many snaps does he play today? That's still up in the air. But just simply having him back around the guys in the minutia of every play in and out makes a massive difference, according to Joe Barry. And it was something that Joe Barry talked a lot about this week. Let's actually hear what Joe Barry had to say about just what it means to have Rashan Gary back on the sideline with them.
When we lost him last year, we didn't just lose the player, the dominant, game-changing player. We lost his work ethic. We lost his mindset that he brings every single day. And it's really in every aspect. I mean, if I'm fortunate enough in my position when coaches have individual meetings, I bounce around all the meetings every day, and just the way, just his approach that he, takes a 30-minute meeting with Coach Rebs is exactly the same way that he takes his approach when he plays on the field. So when you miss that, when you lose that, you not only lose the player, but you lose the leader, you lose that emotional leader, that grit leader that he brings to us every single day. So it's great. It's great to have him back.
So as we heard there from Joe Barry, having Rashan Gary back, just even if he's on the sidelines and not on the field the whole time, can make such a massive difference for this defense. Don't want to miss anybody here. Let's see. Tyler asked, will Wick start with Watson out? It'll be Doubs. I wouldn't be surprised if Torrey starts. Maybe Torrey plays a little more in the slot, which is where Jaden Reed's probably going to start. Wicks could start. That's, Tyler. I guess it depends on how many they send out there to start with. If they send out 3, it's going to be Doubs, Reed, and I would say Samari Torrey, but it could very well be Tay Wicks as well. If they send out 4 to start, then he'll for sure be out there. It would be down between him and Samari Torrey for who will get that 3rd starting spot. So definitely something to watch, especially to see. The difference is, from what we've seen so far, Tay Wicks sort of does one thing, and that could take Christian Watson's spot. But Samari Torrey can play all of those positions. So putting Torrey out there in place of Watson allows them to then move around Doubs and Reed as well if they need to. So I think they get a little bit more flexibility with Samari Torrey. Let's see what other questions we have here today. Will the Bears be able to serve beer if they lose the opener at Soldier Field? Some people think that's funny. It's a little cheesy. Jim, will the defense be better this year? Well, Jim, hopefully it can't be much worse. But they really sort of finish strong. But again, they have a hard test to open with Justin Fields. Jesse asked, how long do you think it will be till the Packers call Crosby to come back to play for us? We need a kicker. I think they're ready to roll with Anders, Jesse. I think they've committed themselves to this rookie, and he has shown progress. He has the leg. He has the power. He has what you want from a kicker there. The accuracy is where he has issues at times, which I know sounds like weird to say that's not as big of a deal, but the accuracy can be fixed. And we've seen Rich Bisaccia tweak things in his accuracy and his kicking already. He's going to have a test here today, though, because as we know, this place and Lambeau are notoriously windy. Amy says, need a big run game today and lots of defense. Yeah, I think this game could easily end with Aaron Jones being your top receiver and your top rusher. I wouldn't be surprised at all if Aaron Jones has the most touches of anybody besides Jordan Love when this game is over. As far as the defense, we talked a lot about Justin Fields. Something we didn't talk about are the tight ends that this team employs, including a couple of former tight ends. I'm just looking at their depth chart here below me. Cole Kmet obviously is the starting tight end for the Bears. Then behind him are Robert Tonyan and Mercedes Lewis, two guys that the Packers are very, very familiar with, and making it a little interesting to play against former teammates that were there a year ago and were very, very involved in that locker room. Guys talked this week about what it would be like to face Bobby and Mercedes. Let's hear from them.
What will it be like going up against Mercedes and Tonyan?
Some good work. I'm going to try to hit Mercedes after the play. Yeah, if y'all don't tell him, y'all just can't tell him. I'm pretty sure he's not watching media. Nobody's not going to send it to him. Mercedes, he don't do technology like that.
That'd be different, especially, Robert. Me and Robert were pretty close. Obviously, everybody around here loves Big Dog so much, so it would be fun to compete against him as well. We know he's going to bring it, so we got to be like him. But, it's always, that's the thing about this league. It's just, you never know who you can play against, or, it's always fun, so it'd be cool.
As we heard there from Rasul Douglas and Darnell Savage, they're looking forward to getting to face both Robert Tonyan and Mercedes Lewis today in this opener. We are nearing kickoff here. I think both Packers and Bears are on the field. The specialists for the Packers are for sure on the field. You see Daniel Willard. Gosh, I was having trouble with that one. Punting now, and he's also going to be having to learn how to deal with this wind. I talked to him about it this week, and he was like, I've just got to get out there early and sort of walk the field a few times before I ever even put a ball in my hands, just to kind of figure out where the wind hits on this field. So going to be interesting for this Iowa native as well to figure out the windy Soldier Field. We are about an hour from kickoff now, a little less than an hour from kickoff. We got one final question coming in here from Jesse. Let's ask, do you think they will put 33 out in the wide receiver in because Jones is the best running back in the league? He's amazing out there in the wide receiver. Yes, I do think that, Jesse. As I said a minute ago, I think Jones will end this game as the leading rusher and the leading receiver. So at least in terms of receptions, he'll end it as the leading receiver. But as I said, a little less than an hour here with the kickoff. So I'm going to let everyone kind of get ready, get settled in. Make sure you're following along on PackersNews.com. Tom Silverstein will have his live blog going. In fact, I think it'll be starting here in about 30 minutes. And it'll go throughout the game. And we will have full wrap-up coverage for you post Packers Bears on PackersNews.com. Thanks so much, guys. We'll see you next time.